Hey guys, this is E10 Sun from SunBros. Today I'm really excited to be bringing you guys this brand new video. But before we get started with that, I want to make sure I remind you guys on how to get entered in for a chance to win our guaranteed skin giveaways that we do every Sunday night during our 1-hour question and answer live stream. All you gotta do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and comment below with your in-game name and which skin you'd like to receive on either the NA or EU servers under 700 vouchers. And remember, the more videos that you do this with that are uploaded each week, the higher chance you have to win. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started with this Rourke how to build video. I'm really excited about this one because not only is it late, but it's taking me forever to find a build that I'm really comfortable putting my stamp of approval on. As you guys can see, I'm all the way into season with Rourke now. I've played so many games on him to figure out how to best build him for you guys. It has been a long journey, but I think I've come up with a build. I know I've come up with a build after all these games that you guys are going to be really happy with, that makes him really strong in a multitude of ways, and I'm really excited to get that to you guys. But as always, we're going to be starting on the hero page, going over Rourke and what he does and who he is, and a little bit about what he brings to the table so we can best figure out how to build him. Alright, Rourke's passive is Scatter Shot. Rourke's crossbow fires special bolts, with each bolt reducing an enemy hero's armor on hit for 6 seconds, stacking up to 12 times. Only the 2 bolts in the middle are capable of critical strikes, dealing additional damage equal to attack damage. And then we have the equation obviously from there. Okay, so that's Rourke's first ability. His passive. His first ability is Charge Shot. For 1.5 seconds, Rourke increases his movement speed by 40%, and his next normal attack fires special bolts, dealing extra physical damage, and reduces the target's movement speed if all 4 bolts hit the same hero. So cooldown starts at 8 seconds, goes down to 6. We get extra damage, we get a movement speed boost, and then it reduces the target movement speed if all 4 bolts hit the same target. So that's really solid. Then the second ability is Bolt, and Bolt starts with a 10-second cooldown, goes down to 7 at level 6. Rourke dashes forward and stops when he runs into an enemy, dealing 180, dealing physical damage to the target and all nearby enemies, also stunning them and knocking them back. If he runs into an enemy hero, the cooldown of this ability is reduced by 2 seconds. So it's interesting kind of thing to note there. The nice stun, the reduction in cooldown, so it goes down to 7. It can go down to 5 if you do hit enemy hero with it. And then obviously we're definitely gonna build some cooldown or reduction on Mr. Rourke because his abilities are off the charts good. And then last but not least is his ultimate, Determination. Rourke dispels all crowd. So Rourke removes all crowd control effects from himself and gains a shield that absorbs 1200 damage. While the shield is active, Rourke is immune to crowd control, continually immune to crowd control effects, and it converts 50% of the damage dealt to additional shield value. So 50% of the damage that he deals while the shield is up will become more shield. The shield value may not exceed 150% of its original. And then Rourke, let's see, I'm just gonna read up Rourke. Okay. Rourke also gains 50 attack damage and 120 armor for 6 seconds. It's a very expansive ultimate. There's a lot of different things. I mean, it's really solid. So first of all, we're gonna get the cooldown starts at 60, goes down to 50 with no cooldown reduction. The shield goes from 1200 to 2400. The attack damage goes from 50 to 150, and the armor goes from 120 to 240. So Rourke is pretty naturally tanky with this. It's one of the strong things about him. Now that we've taken a look at his abilities and kind of what they bring to the table, what they do, we're going to go ahead into the build section for Rourke. Alright guys, let's go ahead and start building Rourke. Now what we're going to first figure out is, of course, where does Rourke get played best? And the answer to that question is pretty simple. Rourke is best as a jungler. He's got a great jungle clear, he's got good mobility, and he can also really have solid ganks. He's got great ability to secure objectives. With the build that we're going to be showing you guys today, he can solo Darkslayer pretty early on. He can solo Dragon pretty early on also. So the first thing we're going to go to the jungle items. We're going to build them a jungle item, and I've seen literally all 3 of the AD jungle items being built on him. The Leviathan, Soul Reaver, Scorching Wind. I've seen all 3 of them being built on him. Leviathan is pretty common. I've seen some other people build Leviathan on him. I don't think it makes any sense whatsoever to build Leviathan on him because he doesn't really take advantage of Leviathan's passive. He does take advantage of the tankiness, but if we're going to build him tankiness, let's do that for real instead of, you know, doing it like this with Leviathan. So, Leviathan's a very nice tanky item, but I'd rather take an item in the jungle in the first part of the game that's really going to benefit him the most. Scorching Wind's okay. I think that's decent for a full damage build or something like that, but I think it's I think Soul Reaver's better for the overall gameplay of Rourke, which is as an off tank. That's this proper gameplay. Kind of imagine him as a Wonder Woman or an Arthur type. So Soul Reaver's the item we're gonna take. We get 80 attack damage to start, 6 life steal, which is gonna give us a little life steal early game to be able to sustain while we're clearing jungle. The unique passive is 15% cooldown reduction, and of course, we're going to get the wild passive, which is going to be the increased attack damage by 3 for every monster killed. Stacks up to 15 times, giving us a total of 45 extra attack damage and giving Soul Reaver a total of 125 attack damage, which is going to be the second highest attack damage that you can actually get in the game to Fenrir's Tooth. So, nice solid starting item for him. Now, the 80 scaling on Rourke isn't out of this world good, but it's nice to have at least one 80 item in this build, especially considering we get 15% cooldown reduction, which is really key because Rourke's strength comes in his abilities more so than it does anything else. Then we're going to be going boots, of course, and we're going to be taking not Gilded Greaves, because Gilded Greaves are not a necessity. Now, what Gilded Greaves gives us is resistance, which makes the duration of crowd control effects be reduced by 35%. Well, his ultimate breaks crowd control effects and makes him immune to crowd control effects while the shield's up. So we don't really need Gilded Greaves in this build. We're gonna get flashy boots. 10% cooldown speed, pretty simple. But now we have 25% cooldown reduction. And we're going to be able to cast that ultimate and that first second ability even more frequently, like we want to do to have proper ganks and all that kind of stuff. So then we're going to our first tank item of the game, and we're going to be going and knocking out an item I think is excellent on him. That's Frost Cape. And I'll tell you why Frost Cape is so good on him. Number one, you're going to be getting that 10% cooldown reduction, putting us at a whopping 35% already on the cooldown reduction. We're getting 250 armor, which combines well with his natural armor that he gets in his tank mode. We're also getting 800 HP, which is nice to have just for some extra tankiness. Now, one of the things I really like about this setup as just these first 3 items that I think are very key to Rourke's gameplay is, Frostcape also gives us the passive Elemental Power. After using an ability, the next normal attack reduces movement speed by 30% and deals 150 physical damage plus 20 per level. So we get a nice little chunk of AoE damage and slow with a 3-second cooldown, which is actually going to work out really nicely on Rourke. The reason why, let's hit OK and go back real quick. So remember, at this point in the game, we have exactly 35% cooldown reduction. So the cooldown on his first ability, it started at 8, now it's down to 6, okay? But we take away 0.35 of that, and we're down to 2.1 seconds, and down to 3.9. So every time we hit his Rourke's first ability, Charge Shot, and we get that 40% movement speed increase, we're gonna get in there and we're gonna blast that really empowered auto attack, hit all 4 bolts, and then Frost Cape is going to stack on top of the slow from Charge Shot. It says reduces movement speed if all 4 bolts hit the same enemy. So now we're going to get a kind of a double stack slow with this first ability and Frost Cape proccing at the same time. And then we're down to that 3.9 second cooldown on this first ability, so we can cast it again pretty quickly. So I really like that. The cooldown is 3.9 seconds. The cooldown on Frost Cape is 3 seconds, giving Rourke the ability to really just go in there and slow people down significantly so that he can do what he has to do. Okay. Next, we are looking at, let's go back to the build. So we're pretty solid off right now. We got a little damage, we got a little tankiness. We're starting to really take shape. Now the next thing that we need to do on this build is go another attack item, and it's not for the purpose of attack, it's for the purpose of sustain, and that's actually going to be the beast. The 100 attack damage sure is nice, but it's not what we're taking this item for. It's that 25% lifesteal. Now I have tried out other items like the new item, Bow of Slaughter. I tried Fafnir's here, but I just need that flat lifesteal, and the reason why is because it just makes him so unbelievably difficult to kill. Whether you are just using the lifesteal from the beast to heal yourself up after you've ulted, or if you're, what I think is probably a more intelligent use of the ult is to ult when you're low on health, and then you get the shield, and then you start doing damage, the shield gets bigger, you start healing, and then by the end of your ult, you could easily get yourself back to 100% health. That is kind of the best way that I've used his ult, and I've really enjoyed that. But the beast is a solid item on him because it's not for the attack purposes, but mostly for the sustain slash tankiness purposes. I think it actually works out extremely well, so I really am loving it here. Now, let's go back to the hero page real quick. I want to take a quick gander where we're at. Now, with 35% cooldown reduction, the ultimate at this point in the game will probably be close to level 15. 50 seconds. So 50 seconds, you take off 35%, and you're talking about removing 17.5 seconds off that ultimate. Now you're able to cast that ultimate every 32.5 seconds, which is a pretty good amount. I mean, it's not a low cooldown by any stretch of the imagination, but 32.5 seconds is doable, especially when you're jungling. You're going to get objectives, you're going to do some jungle farming, you're stealing jungle farm. 32.5 seconds is a solid amount, and the ult's extremely powerful, so it's nice to have. And then, of course, the second ability is going to be at 7 seconds at this point. And after we reduce it 35%, we're going to be sitting at, it's a 2.45 second reduction. And we remove that from the total 7, and we're sitting pretty at 4.55. So 4.5 seconds on the cooldown on the second ability. Now, if we hit an enemy hero with that, it gets 2 seconds reduced from that, putting us at between 2.5 and 3 seconds on the cooldown for Bolt, which is, of course, our crowd control. It's a really solid ability. It does damage, it's a dash, and it has the hard crowd control knockback and stun. So let's go ahead and go back to the equipment page and talk about the next direction that we're going to go. Now, the next direction that we're going to go is going to be based upon making Rourke into, at this point, Rourke can stay in fights well, but he's not an off tank. He can't really soak up damage and be an absolute monster in there. So we're going to focus on making him a monster. And how we're going to do that is by going back to the defensive page and getting him more tanky. Now, at this point, we have armor via Frostcape. We have a lot of lifesteal. We have cooldown reduction. But we don't have anything to stop us from taking damage from magic damage, people. So we're going to be getting Gaia Standard. Now, Gaia Standard is a multifaceted purpose. It's going to make more sense when I tell you the next item, but we get 240 magic defense, so now we're starting to get some magic defense versus magic damage dealers. We have 1200 max HP to go along with the HP that we have from Frostcape. That gives us 2000 total HP at this point. And of course, the passive, which I really love, which is Regenerate. When taking damage, restores 8% of the HP, of his max HP over 2 seconds. So 10-second cooldown. But that is amazing for sustain. It's amazing when it procs in a fight on him. Now he has 8% of his HP recovering over 2 seconds, along with the life steal from that, along with his natural tankiness, along with his ultimate. I mean, his tools to survive and stay alive and sustain in fights is incredible. And that leads us into our final item for this build, and that is actually going to be Crimson Banner. Now, Crimson Banner is another multifaceted reason. We're getting 200 armor, which is nice to have. Now we have armor at 450 naturally. Let's go back to his kit. His ultimate gives you, and we have 240 with his ultimate when we're ulting. So that's going to give us a total of 690 on the armor when we're in our ult form, which is pretty solid. It's nice to have. We're also going to be getting 1500 max HP, which puts us at 3500 extra HP on this build. And then, of course, the unique passive, which works really well in combination with his natural toolkit and Gaia Standard. Bloody Battle restores 20% of your HP over 5 seconds after earning a kill or assist with a 10-second cooldown. Now, the crazy thing about this, they both have 10-second cooldowns, right? Is that with this build, he can sustain long enough to be able to proc these passives twice if he needs to. So if you're going in, you're going ham. You're pretty tanky as it is on full build. You're pretty tanky. You're taking some damage. You're life stealing some damage back. And let's say you get, you get kind of low on your health. Boom. Your proc Gaia standard is getting proc. You get 8% of your health back. You're still life stealing. Then boom, you proc your ultimate. Now you've killed somebody. Crimson Banner's giving you health back. You're life stealing health back. The amount of health return to you is really, really solid. The damage is surprisingly incredible with just 2 damage items. I'm telling you guys, I built him full damage and I built him in this off tank mode here, and the damage differentials are minuscule. It's not as much as you would think it would be because 80 scaling isn't that strong. Now on the flip side, my total overall damage is stronger because I'm able to survive so much longer with this build that I can just keep doing stuff over and over again. The cooldown reduction is there. I mean, everything that you'd want to be able to do as much damage as possible is available to you in this. Now, okay, so this is our entire first build. We're going to give you guys the second build a little bit later, but first we're going to be heading over to the Arcana page to let you guys know what kind of Arcana you're going to be taking on Rourke, and that is going to be our 80 pen Arcana. Let's go into the shop and show you guys what that looks like. The first run on red is going to be Onslaught, 2.4 attack damage and 3.6% armor pierce. And what we're doing here is we're giving Rourke a stronger early game. We're going to give him some armor pierce to give him a stronger early game so he's able to get fed earlier, faster, stuff like that. So this is going to help with that tremendously. Then we're going to purple, and we're going to be taking Assassin, my favorite purple for ADs. It gives you attack damage, and of course, it gives you movement speed. That's 10% movement speed, 16 attack damage overall. It's going to give us better roaming, better movement on our jungling. We're going to be able to get from one jungle camp to the next better. We're going to be able to gank faster. Just overall nice to have 10% movement speed. And then we're going green, and this one is a no-brainer. Also, we're going to be going straight to Skewer for 9 more attack damage and 64 more armor pierce. That is our 100 armor pierce Arcana setup. Okay, so that is that, and then of course we're going to go to the talents, and we're taking Punish because we're taking the jungle item, and he is a boss with those jungle items. Indeed. Okay, now let's show you guys an alternative build to him if you want to take him a little bit more damage. So let's go to build number 1. Okay, so this is an alternative, still kind of tanky, but a lot more damage build. We're going to be starting off with Scorching Wind, and I was unsure of how Scorching Wind would work with him, but it actually worked pretty well, and there's a couple different reasons why. Number one, obviously attack speed. We get a little bit of attack damage. We get 20% attack speed naturally, 10% lifesteal, and then of course the passive. There's 2 passes. The first one is Firestorm. Normal attacks place a mark on the target, dealing magic damage. Each stacks, and it stacks up to 6 times. Excuse me. And then of course there's the bottom passive, which is Wild. Increasing his attack speed by 2% for every monster killed, stacks up to 15 times. That's going to give us a total of 30% attack speed, giving Scorching Wind a total of 50% attack speed as an item. So because the 80 scaling isn't that good on Rourke, and because the scaling on his or just the natural scaling on his abilities damage is good, Scorching Wind actually provides you a pretty incredible amount of damage. I was surprised to see how well it works. And the other thing that makes it really good with attack speed on Rourke is that his natural ability to shoot and move. Every hero has a different ability as far as it comes to shooting and while they're moving. And some of them can shoot and move really well. Some are terrible. And of course, then you have Yorn, who can't move at all while he's shooting, or he doesn't do any damage. But Rourke has a really solid ability to shoot. I'd say he's probably the second best marksman in the game when it comes to moving and shooting at the same time. And then we're taking War Boots. War Boots are even more, that's 25% more attack speed, giving us a total of 75 attack speed at this point in the game, which is nice to have, of course. And then we're going straight into that Frost Cape for the exact same purposes that we discussed in the last build. Cooldown reduction, nice to have. We're not building much cooldown in this build. We're only building this 10%. But you got some tankiness, and of course you have the really solid passive, which is going to help us slow people in combination with that first ability to be able to keep them in front of us where we need them to get that really close range shotgun shot. Then we're going to be going into Fafnir's, which is going to be more attack damage, not a lot, but we're getting the 30% attack speed. That's putting us at a whopping 105% attack speed. And the reason why we're not getting the beast in this build, even though it's a really solid item on Rourke, and I love it on him, is because Scorching Wind gives us 10% lifesteal, and Fafnir's gives us 10%. So this is a total of 20. It's 5% less than the beast, and I feel like getting the beast here is a little bit excessive. I've tried it. But the next item we're going to be getting is Odin's Will. Now there's an interesting reason why Odin's Will works well on him here or in any of the builds that I've tried. Number one, you get a little bit of attack damage, you get a little bit of a sustain, or a little bit of health, which gives you some more tankiness. The passive actually works great. Rourke is a target of much interest, especially when he's ulting. He got the shield up, he can't be crowd controlled, he's up in everyone's face, so he gets attacked. And now in the passive, Adrenaline increases movement speed and damage, and deals 2% additional damage after taking damage. And it stacks to 5 times. That's 10% extra movement speed and 10% extra damage. So 10% damage is actually a pretty big deal on Rourke, and I love having this on him. 10% movement speed gives us 20% additional movement speed if you count what we get from... we don't have the movement speed buff on here, do we? We have the 40% movement speed buff from his first ability, and then what am I thinking of here? I don't remember. Okay, so we got, yeah, the movement speed is solid though. We have a 10% movement speed here. Oh, the Assassinate Arcane, that's something. So Assassinate gives us 10% movement speed buff. Odin's Will is going to give us 10% movement speed buff in battle, as well as 10% extra damage. So the Odin's Will is actually a pretty solid item on him. And then last but not least, I have Fenrir's Tooth on here. That just kind of gives you, I know the AD scaling isn't great, but the increased damage when the enemy is below 50% health is really great. And the reason why is because a lot of times Rourke can one-shot somebody to half health with his, most of the time, Rourke can half health somebody with his first ability's auto attack if you hit all 4 bolts. So after that, you know, you could really burst them down with auto attacks because of Fenrir's passive. Now the 200 attack damage isn't wasted. He does have some scaling. It's just not super good. but the ability to deal 30% extra damage when the target falls below 50% is awesome, because ideally you get in there with your movement speed buff on your first ability, you shotgun them, they're below 50%, and then you're trying to finish them off with auto attacks. That 30% extra damage combined with the 10% extra damage of Odin's Will, 40% extra damage on anyone, let alone Rourke, is going to be a pretty nice boost to that damage. But yeah, this is it. Yeah, this is our secondary build that we want to provide for you guys, which is all damage, but it really gives Rourke some incredible sustain, especially with his ultimate. And I'm telling you guys, after trying out so many different builds and playing a lot of Rourke to get this build done, I am confident in telling you guys that for the correct, proper off-tank build on Rourke, this one is very, very solid. I like it a lot. The sustain is great, the damage is great, and the ability to never die is great. Now, if you're somebody who wants to play more damage style on Rourke, more of like an assassin style marksman, then this is the build that you're going to be looking at, which is going to give you still some sustain, still some tank ability and survivability, but a lot more damage. I really like the combination of Scorching Wind and Fafnir's on him. Not only do you get the attack speed, but you get the extra magic damage from Scorching Wind's passive, and of course, you get the extra damage from the passive on Fafnir's Talon, which we didn't even talk about, which is essentially the normal attack deal additional damage equal to 8% of the target's current HP. So those little extra hits get hit on every single auto attack. It just makes it nuts. He does a lot of damage, guys. So those are our 2 builds. I gave you guys the Arcana. That is a wrap for the Rourke how to build video. It's the hardest one I've done to date, bar none, and I'm really excited to have perfected it for you guys. I didn't cheap out on you guys. I could have just put out the first thing that felt good on day 1 to ensure that I got it out quickly and I got the most views, but I don't believe in that. I'm not going to sell myself short or you guys short by half-assing it when I could really do the work that is required to get a build that I'm confident on putting the SunBros stamp of approval on, and these 2 builds are it. Guys, thanks for watching it. I appreciate it. Tomorrow we're going to be coming out with another video. It's going to be a Can It Jungle video, another video in that series. I hope you guys are excited for that one. I know I am. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, until next time.